cats keep beating up your chops, I ought to turn you over to the cops. But dig this spiel I'm gonna lay on your gate. Don't cop your broom, park the body and wait. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You tell everybody I'm busted. You talk so much you got me disgusted. But you run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You start in telling me you're my pal and end up telling me how to handle my gal. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. You run your juicy mouth and I run my business, brother. Just run your juicy mouth and I run my business, brother. You always telling me what to do, saying I wouldn't do that if I was you. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother. Just clap your liver lips and I run my business, brother. Clap your liver lips and I run my business, brother. If I'd followed your advice on how to make dough, I'd been in the jailhouse long ago. You run your mouth and I run my business, brother.
Mafia, subtitled The City of Lost Heaven, no, not the remaster, is a 2002 open-world story-driven action-adventure game developed by the Czech studio Illusion Softworks, also known as 2K Czech SRO, which is not what you'd expect from a game like this. It was released on Windows, PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. Unsurprisingly, with a small foreign studio, the game was in development as far back as 1998. Where it was originally supposed to be a lot more like the Driver games. In fact, the game was in development so long that halfway through they decided no existing engine was good enough for the game, so the absolute mad lads made one themselves, subsequently calling it LS3D, for which mods are still being released to this day. No wonder that after so much effort the game was quite successful, selling 2 million copies by 2008 and receiving mostly positive reviews from anyone who actually knew anything about video games. I'm looking at you, The Times, yes, that The Times, which is quite random. Even the Czech selected it the best game they had ever made at the time in a magazine. Anywho, diving into the actual game, the plot centers around cab driver turned mafioso Tommy Angelo and his antics from 1930 to 1938.
I burned rubber out of there like a bat out of hell.
We gotta shake these clowns behind them. If you don't do it, then we're done for.
The game's story is one of its much stronger factors even today. It's by no means a happy story, spoilers, especially the ending with many different themes at play, making it feel like you're playing through a film and not a game. The voice acting is decent.
That's it. I'll get you back in the car. Everything's okay.
Don't move, scumbag, or I'll fill you with holes. Come on, just try it. You won't get past me.
Sure thing, buddy. Just stay cool. Everything's okay. Just go. No problem.
Just try it.
No.
The motion captured cutscenes have a nice flow to them, speaking of which it's quite heavily cutscene reliant to explain to the player. Not that this is a bad thing though, as the cutscenes are not only very well animated for the time, but are also incredibly satisfying to see after a hard level. For example, and spoilers for the Art Gallery Shootout, Hotel Escape Morello's Bar and others, seeing your screen fade to black with just a tiny bit of health left after attempting the same level 20 times is an immediate sense of relief. The game also uses its story in a clever way to aid missions in their gameplay. For example, you are tasked with robbing a bank. In a cutscene, your crewmate mentions you'll only have 5 minutes before the alarm goes off. This is now an active gameplay element, as you have to get out of there before the timer runs out. Or you've just stolen a race car to sabotage because your crew bet on someone else. But oh no, the guard at the racetrack is changing in half an hour and you've got to get it done before that. The whole game is essentially a build-up, starting out with boring missions like ferrying around passengers in a taxi, to having to race because the driver can't make it and everyone has their bets on him, to eventually, near the end of the game, assassinating anyone and everyone who gets in your way in any way. Overall, each plot point is well thought out and the character development is definitely there, coming together to create a pretty good experience with twists and turns. Gameplay wise, it's nothing terribly special, with the on-foot controls being very similar to Half-Life but from a third person perspective, which is responsive and snappy but also quite twitchy and delicate. Not ideal for fast-paced situations, but pretty decent considering its age. Although the camera angle can get a bit finicky sometimes, the HUD varies from pretty aesthetically pleasing to just looking out of place. The saving system works in a way that it saves every time you complete a certain part of a level. No quick saving for you, my friend, you've got to do this flawlessly, which can at times be a little stressful and rage-inducing. Some elements are a little deceptive, like the barrels with flammable marked on them not exploding like they would in a conventional shooter game, and enemies having varying levels of accuracy every time you replay the level, and sometimes being confused on where you're supposed to go and what you need to do, but overall these are mostly minor problems. The graphics, well, they seem quite dated to be honest when looking at all the exteriors and textures. But when the game goes into a cutscene or an interior, things get a lot better, with it being extremely detailed 6 years before Grand Theft Auto 4 did it. You could walk around here for a while, taking in all the little extra touches and coziness of it. And nighttime as well makes many of the exteriors look a lot better and less repetitive, while in the day a lot of the city areas look particularly alike. The nighttime graphic effects and pretty lighting help it make a lot better to look at. Don't get me wrong, it's not exactly Evangelion, oh my god, that's so masterfully crafted, it must have taken so long, I can feel the effort sucking the soul out of my levels of great looking, but it's genuinely nice, which can also be said for one place that is terribly underutilized in Mafia despite how beautiful it is. The countryside. It's got loads of environmental set pieces, great use of textures, bright colours and well made curves, but it only ever appears in the campaign about 3 times. I don't even know half the locations in this area, and like the city, it has no map, and I've had this game for the better part of 2.5 months. Another thing in the environment dynamically changes based on what part of the story you're in. If you're only in the beginning in 1930 or 1932, it's a bit bleak, since the Great Depression only just ended and the city is still growing. However, later on in 1938 you see brand new, more aerodynamically shaped cars, more bridges have been constructed, there's more traffic and people, and maybe even some buildings have changed a little. And remember, this game is practically 20 years old at the time of making this video. And some dedicated fans and community are still using it, either by making mods like this one of the Titanic, which took 15 real-life years, or people on social media claiming that you're not a real Eastern European gamer until you've tried this at least once. It even seems like they had to cut down a lot of the potential content that was originally supposed to be in the game for processing power. Which is a shame, since a lot of the beta gameplay shows features that would have been even more impressive. Now, I can't continue this video without mentioning this game's slight resemblance to The Getaway, which came out the same year after having been in development for about the same time. Having similar camera angles, also hard levels, finicky controls, also a stressful saving system, also a great story, also an art gallery shootout, also conflict between mob gangs. Both can be played on PlayStation. I think it's just a coincidence, as it wasn't exactly unusual practice for games at the time. I won't bicker on which is better, since long-time viewers will know I'm pretty biased. But getting back on topic, the game's music has been largely wiped from the Steam version which I played due to licensing issues, apart from its original score, which is a shame, since a lot of the songs on it really help enhance the 1930s atmosphere. But overall, the game's original soundtrack is surprisingly rather good and well composed, with a lot of the melodies being catchy and staying in your head. Here's a few examples. and the difficulty curve is a bit out there for more casual gamers, but for the most part it'll take you a few tries to do a mission anyway. And well, that's it. As Turbo J UK once said, there isn't really much left to say, apart from the fact it's really cool that this is an example of a not so well known game studio outside of the United States actually having some success. And that tells me that despite the large amount of rip-off type games in this region, it should not be ignored for gaming, since some genuinely great games have come out of it. And with that, thank you for watching.